Hello and welcome to Scott's Odyssey. It will be 100 years on Sunday, April 5th, that a little town deep in the rural and mountainous life of central Pennsylvania saw an event of what was called a peaceful demonstration. Unlike many of the peaceful demonstrations and protests we have today, the people of this town showed a backbone, rose up, and not only removed, but stopped all northern progression of one of the most racist and violent organizations seen during this time. This is the story about Lilly, Pennsylvania versus the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. See you in a minute. Welcome back. If you've watched my videos before, thank you for your patronage. And if you're new to Scott's Odyssey, welcome aboard. As many of you know, I'm a Gen Xer. If you didn't know that, then I played my part very well. Along with being a Gen Xer, I'm an autistic and have done a lot of government contracting as well as worked deeply with our military branches. I only point this out to clearly disseminate that my mentality is not that of a progressive liberal, nor that of a staunch conservative, but more similarly to a constitutionalist, and I follow a path of a libertarian. That means I do not discredit you for your ideological beliefs, nor for your strange ways, your mental health, the color of your skin, the color of your hair, and your weight, your religious belief system, your spirituality, your wealth, your ability to present an opinion, as long as you know the difference between a well thought out and backed up with knowledge and learned or experience formed opinion versus the oh so often misspoken form of what many call an opinion, but is actually only an unfounded viewpoint. No, I judge people based on how you present your level of intelligence quotient, how you treat other people, how you treat animals, especially dogs, your ability to communicate bilaterally using proper grammar and use of actual word definitions that are not made up to suit your personal agenda. And most importantly, your accountability or ability to take responsibility for your actions. You know, what we would call grown-up stuff. And this is the way the world was, especially back in 1924, and more so when you lived somewhere in the middle of rural Pennsylvania, where making the mistakes that I just described might get you dropped off into a ravine, a ditch, a hole, shallow earth pit, or someone's cellar for a long, long time, with the sound of banjos and iterations of how purty your mouth looks, or how it rubs the lotion on the skin, or else it gets the hose again. Now that the stage is set for the 1920s and the mentality of the 1920s, let's take a look at what happened 100 years ago on what was Saturday, April 5th, 1924. In 1831, Washington Township was formed from what was Allegheny, Cambria, and Summer Hill townships. Within Washington Township was the logging village of Hemlock, the milling village of Lilly's Mills, and the coal village of Laurel Run. Now, of course, all of these villages worked closely together, and people from all these villages strive for the communities they're in, with cross-employment and general welfare for everybody. This ultimately led to the coal mining village of Lilly, established in 1852, later becoming a borough in 1883. The name Lilly was chosen because of the property that became Washington Township was formerly owned by Joseph Lilly, who had moved his family to this area of Cambria County in order to be close to Father Gallitzin, the Prince Priest. I'll put a link down below if you want to know more about Father the Prince Gallitzin. When Joseph Lilly passed, his son Richard inherited the property and built a grist mill in the area. Ultimately, Richard donated all his lands for the creation of a much larger community, and that is why the name Lilly was chosen to represent the village. Most of the immigrants that populated this area were Irish, German, and there were some Italian Catholics who had moved to this area for the availability of work, as well as close proximity to the Basilica of St. Michael the Archangel. Pretty much the only Catholic church in this area until 1923, which was 124 years later when Our Lady of Lourdes Roman Catholic Church was established in Altoona. By 1924, Lilly was a predominantly Catholic township with a population of about 2,300 residents. Now at this time, the Klan had been pushing itself to establish a foothold in the northeastern part of the United States. In 1924, the KKK had a chapter in every county of Pennsylvania, save 2, with almost 250,000 Pennonites as members. And the message the Klan was pushing, well, it wasn't violence based on race or color, as is depicted in the post-Civil War Klan of the late 1800s. In 1924, they were pitching a new narrative, which was that the white lower middle class Protestant Americans were afraid that the incoming immigrants were going to destroy traditional God-fearing American culture. Sounds oddly familiar today. Anyway, so they essentially went after anyone who was an immigrant, a Catholic, or a Semite. And for those of you who may be a little less knowledgeable, a Semite is anyone who speaks or looks like they are Arabic, Amharic, or Hebrew. Oh, and if you don't know who the Amharic are, well, they would be the Ethiopian Christians, technically and by all historical account, the very first Christians. Yep, they wanted to oust the Catholics, the Jews, the black Christians of Africa, and the Al-Masihiyun, or Christian Arabians, which, if you didn't know, was the religion of Arabia until the Nation of Islam wiped out all traces of the original genetic Arabs and replaced them with non-Christian Houthis, making Arabia no longer Arab. Yes, this is history and not an interpretation, only the facts. The Klan had attempted to establish a chapter in this area several times previously to 1924 and had been ousted on a very, very regular basis. They even placed moles into the mining community acting as immigrant Catholics seeking recruits and sympathizers. But when they would attempt to burn their crosses, the town would quickly push these people out of the area and out of the United Mine Workers Labor Union. As a direct quote, Art Yingling from Lilly said, "This was the only place around here that tore down their crosses. When they put up their crosses, we tore them down." Needless to say, this rather infuriated the Klan, so they decided to step up their action. The Klan planned an event that they called the KKK Special. Dressed as normal people, all carrying a very plain brown package under their arm, 300 Klansmen took a train that was solely secured for the Klan out of Johnstown. Another train from Johnstown arrived later with 100 more Klansmen dressed similarly with the same brown package. Then another passenger train from Pittsburgh with over 10 cars, and then another from Altoona. There were approximately 400 Klansmen in total. At the station, all the Klansmen donned their robes, which is what they were all carrying in their brown packages. Once they were dressed, the power to the entire town of Lilly was cut. Starting at Railroad and Cleveland streets, the Klan began a march along the streets with their lit torches en route to Piper's Field. Before reaching Piper's Field, residents spent time discussing how they should handle this situation. Someone proposed releasing loose coal cars down the hill into the marching groups. It's stated that during this discussion, word arrived that a Klan member was beaten by a resident. But the people of Lilly decided direct violence wasn't the right thing to do, that there was a better way to combat these bullies. They decided to use the fire hydrants back at the train station to catch the Klan members on their way back from burning their crosses. The Klan initiated the cross burnings and the detonation of sticks of dynamite that they were tossing from the hill on Piper's Field. When done creating their hullabaloo in the town, they began their procession back to the train. While walking back, they were fully surrounded by many of the residents who kept filling in behind them. When they reached the train station, the residents in waiting used a fire hose and began spraying the Klan group. Unfortunately, the response by the Klan was unanticipated. Klansmen pulled out guns and they began shooting. They ended Frank Miesco, a 22-year-old man who was at the very front of the hose. Phil Conrad, a 24-year-old, was standing at a storefront watching all of this unfold. He too was ended on the eve of his 25th birthday. Cloyd Paul, a sympathizer for the Klan who had cut the woods for the crosses, he too was ended. Helen Conrad, Phil Conrad's younger sister, recounts that when they shot across the brick street, when the bullets hit those bricks, it sounded like roller skates. The KKK Special returned to Johnstown on the train, and to their surprise, the police locked the doors to all of the coaches. The police searched and confiscated the weapons of 25 Klansmen. Those Klansmen were also immediately arrested. Through the night and into the next day, over 80 more guns were found along the railroad tracks between Lilly and Johnstown, where they were hastily disposed of during the Klan's return trip. State mounted police patrolled Lilly for a week. Murder charges were brought up against William Monahan, a Lilly resident, and Klansman Sam Evans from South Fork. Charges were dropped because no one was willing to testify against either of these men out of fear of Klan retaliation. All in all, 16 residents, 28 Klansmen, were charged with unlawful assembly, affray, and riot. Out of sheer fear, the judges of Cambria County's Common Pleas Court recursed themselves from trying any of these 44 men. So a Philadelphia Napolet judge was brought in to preside over the trials. Judge Thomas E. Finletter was so angry about what transpired that he stated in the trial transcript, anyone that was out on the streets on the night of this event was engaging in rioting. So tried all of those Lilly residents and all of the Klansmen whom were on trial in a single trial altogether. Everyone was sentenced to 2 years in jail. But it's important to note that most of the residents were released after 1 year. Many of the residents of Lilly were still furious after the trial. Those who were sympathizers of Klan members often had a carved wooden sign hung in front of their home on the power lines that exclaimed, "Ku Kluckers." As life does, things went back to being quiet in the borough of Lilly. And the events of that night were never spoken about again. We're talking that it was to a point where nobody would mention it. Many of the children and grandchildren of those who were there have never heard about it from any family members. And until a short while back, and I do mean a short while back, the borough acted like the event never happened. This was the first wake-up call to the Klan that they were not wanted in the North. The following year, in August 1925, 40,000 Klansmen marched on Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. as a show of force to the United States government. But due to the rain, they canceled the end of their ceremonial cross burning right after the parade. By the 1930s, the Klan had started to fall apart, and today have less than 3,000 confirmed members. The borough of Lilly still exists peacefully with approximately 865 residents, down from 1,269 in 1990 and about 1/3 of what it used to be in 1924. One of the lessons learned in this moment of history is that the people of Lilly realized that we must all remain vigilant and fight for our liberty to achieve our freedoms, something most of us seem to have forgotten in today's day and age. Currently, the KKK has an insignificant number of people in its ranks and is much more of a dark blotch in our country's history. But in the past decade, other hate groups have formed, each one trying to one-up the other by being more specific to who they hate versus what they hate and feeling that hating is going to make some kind of a difference. And almost all of them try to pretend that it is for some greater good, when in fact it's nothing more than a screaming minority because someone told them the truth of what they actually are, and it hurt their feelings. So they are just acting out like a child who was never disciplined on how to act appropriately and be accountable, and this includes our current government. I believe most of this is because we no longer educate our children with critical thinking in the school system, nor correct them when they are irresponsible or unaccountable. And we most definitely do not teach them any of our history to deter such cycles from recurring. The old adage of, if you don't learn history, you're doomed to repeat it. Even these people today who make claims of peaceful protests, imagine if we stood up and said, "For the people of Lilly," and just ended their stupidity for acting out. Or heck, how about we just teach what the preamble states, that to guarantee your prosperity and secure your liberty, we can promote the general welfare by providing for a common defense and ensuring domestic tranquility through established justice. It's really not that difficult. And you can choose to not like this video all you want, but this is what our country is established on: for, by, and with, because that's what was ordained and established in the Constitution of these United States. I hope you enjoyed learning a history of who we once were, and as we've been seeing, still are today, out of the good old borough of Lilly, Pennsylvania. Let me know down in the comments your thoughts on the Lilly riots. Keep it clean, be respectful to the channel and other people's comments, or I will happily delete yours or make an example of you. Help support the channel by going out to the merch store, hitting it up on Patreon, jumping out to PayPal. Anything you can do to contribute helps me get more stories out and do more of the on-location visits. If you can't do any of that, then just give the video a like and subscribe to help grow the channel so others can share in these fantastic stories. As always, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Thank you.